Well, it is Wednesday. Additional thoughts time for Nothing Was the Same by Drake. Before I talk about that album, I'm going to talk a little bit about For All the Dogs because I listened to it this week. On Saturday, I said, you know what? I'm just going to check it out. And you know what? I'm going to sit down with my good friends, Kevin and Connor, and watch their reaction. So I got on Patreon Saturday, and for a couple hours, I chilled and watched their video. Got about halfway through the album. They're a little bit more generous than I am. But overall, it was cool to it was neat for me. Someone who's always enjoyed reaction content, and I honestly don't have much time anymore these days to watch it. It was fun to just sit down and listen to those guys listen to it. It was cool. Got about halfway through the album. The next morning, I put it on again. Got about halfway through the album before I was kind of like, I need something else. The two notable tracks for me, First Person Shooter. Obviously, that one's getting a lot of attention right now, too. I think that's his number one, or it hit number one on the Billboard or some shit like that. I saw something on Twitter about how that's his J. Cole's first number one. And then I Don't Give a Fuck with Yeet and Benny X. I like that track, too. Pretty cool. Was it the next day? I don't know. Then I listened to the second half of the album, and overall, pretty bored. I wasn't really into it. You know, I didn't have the lyrics up. I just had it on, just kind of had it on in the background, listening to stuff, and I was like, man, Drake's just kind of whining about women, and that was about it. And what was funny for me listening to that, I thought, I wonder why the Drake fans, especially the fans of old Drake, you know, hungry Drake, rapping Drake, I wonder why they're so down on this album, because it kind of sounds like Drake to me. Then I put on Nothing Was the Same, and I went, oh, this is much better. Much better. Much better. Overall, Nothing Was the Same. I think this will be the Drake album I enjoy the most. I think most people were right in saying, yeah, you'll like this one the most. This is kind of Drake at his peak. I don't know about at his peak, but overall, the album grew on me. Overall, I enjoyed it. And overall, I'm still just not a Drake fan. You know, I've listened to 4 of his albums now, and for the most part, you know, I think my favorite track off of Nothing Was the Same, I don't know, I really like Too Much. I really like From Time, but I think Hold On, We're Going Home is kind of my favorite track. And it made me realize I'm a fan of pop, singy Drake. Not the rapper Drake. I like the singing Drake, where he's singing the chorus. Maybe there's some supporting vocals. Maybe there's a little bit of rapping in the verses. That's the Drake I like. Hold On, We're Going Home, I love. Take Care is another song I really, really enjoy by him. So that's where I exist with Drake. When Drake is telling me how fucking badass he is and how he's the best, I'm not really that interested. When he's kind of down in his feelings and moping about girls, I'm not really that interested. Yeah, so I like singing Drake, which maybe I'm in the minority on that one. I don't know. But overall, Nothing Was the Same. I did enjoy it. But it was kind of interesting because you enjoy something from an artist you're really not that into. There's a couple times I'd put it on, I'm just like, I gotta listen to something else. There's just something about Drake where he doesn't land for me. That's all there is to it. Then I started thinking about you know, Drake and how divisive he is in hip hop, and how there's all these fans, there's all these haters. And by the way, for the record, I disagree with the haters. The haters that say Drake sucks, he's ass, blah blah. I don't agree with that. I'm kind of in the middle where I'm just like, okay, there's some songs I like, there's some songs I don't care for, whatever. But I was thinking about the haters specifically, like why are there so many? And I started to think about just the channel, you know, the people on Discord server, the people in comments, the people on Twitter, just all of the debates that you see all over the place, right, on online spheres. And I started thinking, I wonder if the reason why Drake has so many haters is because the music nerds, me, us, those people, those who have these ideas of what you have to do to make an excellent song, an excellent record, the type of rapping you have to have, the lyrics you have to have, the rhyming schemes, the productions, the beat switches, all this shit, right? The things that you need to have to make an excellent song, an excellent album. And then Drake comes along and doesn't do any of that necessarily. and still goes number one over and over again. And not to say that, big numbers means best music, but more so, to me, that means that we, the music nerds, our opinion is in the minority. We are not the average general listening fan. We're not. And so I wonder if the Drake thing, the reason why there's so much heat around him and just visceral opinions when it comes to Drake is because it takes these ideas that the music nerds build up and kind of knocks them all over and says, nope, you're wrong. That's my take on the Drake haters and why they're so loud and why there's so many of them. Because if Drake weren't going number one all the time, nobody would care. Right? If everyone was calling Drake mid and he didn't really have any sales and he didn't have any awards, no one would even talk about him because it wouldn't matter, right? But because he keeps going number one, there you go. There were some good notes. There's a couple lyrics I missed out on, of course. What was it? I think it was Connect, where he's talking about how he would allow the girl to talk about pussy power and how, basically, I misunderstood that. He's essentially admitting that he's whipped by saying that. And so there's a couple people that mentioned that, and it makes more sense. Actually, that song kind of grew on me because of that misunderstanding. Now it makes more sense. I put a heart next to that one. Car note. Who was it? They said they spent a car note on a shirt. I can't remember. But I was all up in arms about it, right? Fortunately, I was wrong because I was thinking pink slip, not car payment, like monthly payment. So that was pointed out for me, which is nice. And then there was a good comment too about, one of the things I don't like about Drake is some of these songs, he's just like repeating himself. Started from the bottom, he's repeating himself. And Worst Behavior, he's just repeating himself. It's like, are you going to say anything? And some people pointed out, it's more of a mantra idea. And this is why people can connect with Drake, because it's not about what he's saying or not saying. It's more about the listener getting into this mindset and kind of getting into this energy and getting pumped up. And that makes sense to me. Now, for me, I just don't get pumped up by it. And it's a strange experience because every now and then I'll go and watch Mallory Brothers. I'll go and watch Lost in Vegas, especially when it's a Drake song where he's got this verse that I don't understand in the slightest. And they'll go through line by line. They'll explain everything, spell out all the details. And it's like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense. And no wonder it all flew over my head because it's tons of stuff I don't know about. But while those guys are explaining it, they're getting hyped up by it. And I kind of couldn't care less. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Drake. But there you go. What else do I have? There were some good comments too about old Drake and when he was coming up and how he was treated by some of the hip hop community. His skin color was too light, and I guess people were accusing him of being gay all the time, and all this other, like, for whatever reason, he was just hated early too. And it makes me a little bit more sympathetic because Drake is this weird situation where he does have huge fan base and huge numbers and huge sales and all these awards and all this other stuff. But then it's kind of a mindfuck because you've got all these things to tell you you're great, but then you have all these people trying to hate on you all the time. And then you kind of get into this layer of, well, old Drake was better and he was hungrier and his music was better. And I remember, I think it was last year or maybe early this year, like he released this weird, it may have been fake. I remember asking on Discord, is this actually real? And people were like, yeah, this is real. But he was releasing merch that said like, loved your old shit and all. And it's like, how weird would it be to be an artist? You're trying to come up. You're trying to get into the game. You're trying to put out just hot fire, trying to get stuff that people are going to get into. And it's catching on, and you're doing well, but then you're still just hated. And so, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm try and fight it. But then you keep hitting number one. Still have all these haters. And then what if you get to a point where it's like, you know what? Let's just say for the sake of argument that he has stopped trying. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. Who knows? I don't think any of us know, right? There's lots of opinions that say he's stopped trying. Whatever. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he has stopped trying. But he's still going number one. That's kind of a mind fuck to me. Like what I try to do is put myself in his shoes of, I've got all these fans, I've got all these haters. When I try really hard, I get hated on and my fans love it and I go number one. When I don't try really hard, I get hated on, my fans love it and I go number one. And it's almost like a scenario of like Midas's touch, you know, where the idea of, oh, I can touch anything and it turns to gold and now I'm rich, but it's also this horrible curse because now you can't touch anything because you just ruin everything around you. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily translate into what I'm talking about, but more so how weird that no matter what you do, it turns to gold. It goes number one, even if you're not trying. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then just to think about what he's probably gone through, the criticisms, the scrutiny, the insults, everything. And then, you know, I criticize the guy because he goes back and forth between saying how much he doesn't care about what you think and blah, 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 which would be nice, would be true. But then there's other examples when he clearly does care what people think. And how could you not? You know, if you live your life as such a prominent figure in the music industry, and everywhere you go, everyone knows who you are and everyone has an opinion about you, like how could you not hear it? How could you not care? How could you not be affected by it? So it's been a kind of a nice week for me with Drake in terms of just trying to understand the guy a little bit more. I've heard 4 albums by him now. I'm of the opinion, look, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a hater. I don't hate Drake. The fans will probably disagree. I feel like I've given him a fair shake. You know, they listened to 4 albums multiple times. I don't know what else to say. You know, if you're just not into it, that's all there is to it. But I do feel a little bit more sympathetic towards him. You know, I don't know if I'm going to do any more Drake reactions. At this point, I feel like if I'm not super into it and I don't, you know, like, then the fans don't like it. If I'm not just going to make a video where I'm shitting on him, because I don't want to do that. I don't want this channel to be negative. I want it to be at minimum trying to appreciate the music, even if I'm not into it. Which just leaves me right in the middle where it's like, okay, you're watching me be bored for 2 hours. Like, So somebody did float the idea of, you know, what if you got a list of like his greatest hits and did a video where you just react to his greatest hits? And I like that idea up until the part where now everyone's going to argue over which song is the greatest hit and it has to be done. No, that one's trash. No, that one's... Because I hate dealing with that shit. I see it all the time. It's a very boring, dull conversation / argument to be involved with. I don't want to make the list. I don't want to argue over it. I don't care, really. I like listening to music no matter what it is. I don't need to have it curated necessarily. If I like it, great. And if I don't, great. And I think with Drake, I'm kind of just in the middle. I think going forward, maybe I'll do a reaction to Views. Some people have said Her Loss is actually pretty decent, even though it got shit on right away. It seemed like everyone was eager to shit on it. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, you know, it's actually pretty good. So maybe Her Loss, maybe Views, maybe none of them. Maybe I just listen to them on my own. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm in no rush. The nice thing about that decision is it's not a decision I have to make right now. I can decide every day. I get to choose if I want to listen to Drake again or not. You know, and that's kind of nice. So there you go. Here's my experience with Drake thus far. Yeah, I guess that's it. Friday, I'm going to do Young Thug, Barter 6. Going to check that out finally after many times it's been requested. Long overdue. And then Saturday, my current plan is, I don't know how or when, but Saturday I'm going to sit down and listen to the new Ken Carson album, A Great Chaos. The reason why is because earlier this week I bought a ticket to the Playboy Cardi show. That's going to be in Sacramento sometime in the future. Apparently it's already been postponed once. Right now it's currently in February or something like that. We'll see if it gets bumped again. But it would be nice if he released a new album before his live show. Either way, current plan, Barter 6 Friday. Saturday, I'll do A Great Chaos. I'll probably just post that to Patreon only on Saturday, and then Sunday I'll do the edit and post it on YouTube sometime Sunday. There you go, you guys. I guess that's it. Take care. We'll see you soon.